You mentioned earlier that, why is employee ownership, secondary to like trade policy, for example. I would argue, I think it's can be and should be very much related to these major questions that we're facing right now about tariffs and what they are for and whether they will help reshore manufacturing. American politics right now is dominated by the question of did we make a mistake in offshoring production? It seems like the consensus is yes. And should we do something to undo that? It seems like the bipartisan consensus is also yes. I think that's right. And one of the things that you see in the political debate, I think, is a lot of bad arguments for why manufacturing matters. And I want to drill down on that a little bit and then connect the dots. You hear, I think, some people make a crass argument that manufacturing, restoring American manufacturing might and productive capacity matters because manufacturing jobs are good jobs and we want more of those good jobs. I think it's a mistake because nostalgia for the kind of assembly line jobs of the 50s is not the argument here. The reasons why manufacturing matters, I think, are much deeper and more systemic. They matter because being able to produce things affects our ability to innovate. It's because of the way that productive capacity roots local economies, especially in struggling regions that have lost that productive capacity. It matters for economic resilience and supply chain resilience. It matters for national security reasons. It's not a jobs program. It's because of the unique role that manufacturing plays in a healthy economy. And one of the things that means is that we should be looking at high-tech manufacturing. Like, it is a good thing if we bring factories back and there are fewer workers in them than there used to be because we have automated, because we've embraced productivity-enhancing technology. That's not bad. That's good. That serves the role that manufacturing should be playing in our economy. And I say all that to get to this point is that once you get there, that restoring manufacturing is good, but it doesn't necessarily mean more manufacturing jobs. You're starting to put your finger on a really salient political tension, which is workers' fear of being replaced by productivity-enhancing technology. And that is a highly, highly relevant tension that I think is latent in our politics that has not been resolved. It flashes at points like the longshoremen labor dispute recently, where workers are afraid of being replaced. That's valid. It is also valid to say that manufacturing productivity has declined in the U.S. for the last several years. That's insane. That's crazy. And one of the reasons is because of a reluctance to embrace new technology. So you have this tension that is potentially standing right in the way of exactly the kind of turn back to manufacturing that we need. And one of the reasons I am so intrigued and fascinated by employee ownership is because of its capacity potentially to help ameliorate that tension. And I think, your research is highly evocative, right, on this point, is that when workers feel a certain set of ways about their relationship to their employer, their attitudes towards a whole bunch of things change, and one of those things is technology. So I'm fascinated by this growing body of research that indicates that employee-owned companies have a different attitude towards productivity-enhancing technology among their workers than non-employee-owned companies, because the way a worker conceptualizes their role in that situation is totally different. If you believe your employer sees you as just a widget, a factor of production to be replaced by a cheaper one if possible, you have every incentive to resist that. If you see yourself as aligned with the interests of your employer because you're a part owner of the business, that's an entirely different calculus. And so you see in some of this research, there is enthusiasm for new technology among employee-owned businesses, at least more so than the alternative, which makes sense. And you see, Mondragon is a classic example, for example, where this technology is embraced. It's not used as an excuse to lay off workers. Workers are interested in enjoying the fruits of that increased productivity, and they do. And so it's just it's suggested employee ownership suggests to me that there is a better way to think about how workers can and should relate to this question of automation, to the advent of AI, to the embrace of technology. Because if we don't resolve that, if we don't square the circle on that, then we are going to have political obstacles to exactly the kind of reindustrialization that all of us by this point agree we desperately need. So I guess that's me stepping back a little bit and trying to connect the dots of the themes I'm hearing. And that's my view, is that part of the reason I'm excited you all are in this room is because of the potential of this topic to help resolve that conflict.